G'day, Hayley.
How you going?
Good, good. Now, would you like to just explain a little bit about yourself and
Sure.
what's led to you being out here?
Yeah, so come out here because I work for Datamars Livestock, ag tech merch company. Just doing a bit of a travel up through the northern pastoral regions at the moment, but also doing project facilitator for the Bullseye 2 project, which you're a part of. Come out to catch up with you about that and see what you're doing and all this tech that you've got in place and get a look because everyone wants to, so...
It doesn't matter what industry you're in, change is hard. Who wants change? And everybody puts their hands up. And then the next question is, who wants to change? Nobody puts their hand up.
Yeah.
So people want change, but they don't want to change. Because change is scary, change is hard. Especially from such a traditional industry that's been passed down through generations and they just have a way of doing things. And yeah, I imagine any technology innovation that you try and introduce into this space would, it's a bit like a big oil tanker trying to change the course. It takes a long time for it to change. Is the technology too far ahead of what people are prepared to accept, or do you see areas where they're more accepting? I mean, how do you see the adoption of technology in the industry?
Yeah, so there's definitely, technology has advanced a lot over the years, but you don't have to be at that end of it.
Yep.
It's a starting process. So to start with the most simple thing of connection is probably the biggest issue in remote regional areas. So let's start with a connection and then let's do some livestock data. Let's do some monitoring. Let's move on to, surveillance, cameras, all that sort of thing. So it's a slow progress. Yep. You don't have to get to the end result straight away. You have to take your baby steps to get there. But yeah, adoption is probably the hardest thing because people are scared of what they don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's where there are people that have, failed and tried and got to where they're at. And, like what Jack's done here.
Datamars being in ag, tech, merch, what sort of tech are they dealing with?
We do all the true tests in terms of your cattle or livestock data collection and weighing and drafting. And then we have our walkover weigh units, which is a remote setup where you can put a weigh scale essentially out in the middle of somewhere and get those results sent through directly and it weighs the cattle without you actually putting them through a set of yards. Right.
Well, we've got a great setup here which would be well suited to integrating that sort of tech. Right. Well, we'll go through these yards and we'll explain a little bit about how a self-mustering yard design like this works. Yep. And then we can look at the application of technology like Datamars offers.
Yes, sure.
So let's hop on through. So I'm going to be a good cow and I'm going to go through the spear gate.
Yep. We'll go through.
And it's a good cow. We're in here in the yard and it's actually pretty cool to have a look. We've got a lot of grass coming through down here and a lot of that is to do with the soil disturbance. So we've had cattle in here and we've had high impact. They've pitted the soil and broken it up. Yep. As opposed to the area outside of the yard here where we've had little disturbance, very low impact. We don't have the same germination. So jumping onto the cameras here, which is a solar powered wireless remote network. Yep. And that shoots up to a hill and then back to the homestead, giving us a live 24/7 view of the yards and recording. Okay. So we can jump on it and have a look at the kangaroos that were here 2 days ago. Yep. Because we've got that motion recorded. Yeah. This gives us high-speed data forwards and backwards. So what this gives us is the video data for here. We can see when we've got cattle coming in, what other water users we have, and pests like the dog prints we saw on the road back there. Yep. We might see that he's been into the yards here. Yeah. And then we can learn his habits and his patterns. Yep. And then we'd be able to take action there. Yeah. So then we start to move on through our yard. Yep. And we've got our large concrete trough, which we can see on the video feed. Yes. And then we've got our very bright white tank with a dipstick. Oh, yep. And that means that we can see that the tank is full. It's simple, it's a basic technology, but we've got high definition footage of that. So it's a floating dipstick? Yep. Yeah, wicked.
So and obviously you see that from the camera.
Yep.
So it's easy to tell rather than, say, having a which is another expense to put onto the tank as well.
Well, and this has no ongoing costs.
Exactly. Yeah.
So we've got the visual info, so we can see the trough itself.
Yes.
And we can see if there's any leaks. We can see the out gate, and if there's, say, an animal that's stuck there, stopping animals from getting out.
Yep.
It also gives you a good backup on if you've accidentally left the yard, like the gate, so that it can swing close and trap your cattle when you don't want to.
Yep.
We've got visual on the tank. We can see if there's a problem there.
Yep.
So a while ago we had it where the tank was full, but we had a leak and it was putting a puddle outside, which was attracting feral animals.
Yeah.
So we had camels there then.
Well, and then defeats the purpose of
the self-mustering yards, which you want to make sure that your cattle are disciplined and trained.
Yeah.
And they move a lot better when they know this is the way out.
Yes. It's educating them.
Our one isn't quite as advanced as the walkover wire.
Yep.
But hey Google, turn on the spring gate.
Okay, turning on spring gate.
So now we're set for mustering.
That's incredible, eh?
And so you can actually do this from anywhere in the world where you've got the internet.
Yeah.
And you've got the video that shows you it. So, hey Google, turn on the spring gate.
Okay, turning on spring gate.
And now we can let the cattle out.
Yeah.
So that means that we can set the yards remotely without having to fly out.
No.
And then if we look in the yards and there's none of the cows that we want to process or any bulls, we can open the gate without even putting boots on the ground.
Yeah.
And the animals aren't as stressed as having a human interacting with them, because the animals out here, whilst they are getting trained and interacting with people, it does lead to a level of stress when they are encountering people.
Yeah.
So the less stress that you can put on them, the better productivity we're going to have.
Yeah, that's right. Weight is dollars.
Exactly. Looking at a system like this where we're in an area of zero other connectivity.
Yep.
So we we don't have 4G phone signal. We have no phone signal actually.
No. Yeah, it's a black hole out here.
Satellite solution costs a significant amount and doesn't give you as much access to data. The thought would be that you've got a system like that, or like the walkover wire.
Yep.
But then we can tie in video feed on the walkover wire.
Yes.
Which will be able to give you the visual ID, so your flag tag of a cow.
Yep.
That correlates to their EID, which is their electronic ID, which is on their NILS tag, which gives you 2 data points for each animal. And as you develop it further, you can teach the system to recognise a calf of a cow, and it will learn that cow's calf.
Yep.
And we will have data on unknown calf from the day that it shows up on the camera.
Yeah, mothering up,
So then you've got that full data flow, and it's going from where, in a pastoral operation, you might muster once or twice a year.
Yeah.
So you've got that constant record. When we're mustering and the stress is on and the heat is on, we put record keeping to the side.
Yeah.
So as much record keeping as we can do, automated, is the best.
Oh, and this is the whole working smarter, not harder.
Yeah. So if we roll on to the Bullseye project, the 3 key objectives on that are?
Yep, so we're looking at pasture improvement and productivity, livestock, same, and then business. We can all be better, and as an industry we need to continue to learn and grow and cross-communicate. What you're doing here is amazing, and so many people interested, because there are so many different resources and tech and things available to pastoralists, but unless you're actively looking and or doing research yourself, it's really hard to come across it, and hence why you've done it all on your own back. How else would you make it happen?
I think a big part of the Bullseye project is, and it's a sore point, is getting our baseline data.
Yep.
So knowing what our pasture counts, our food on offer is, what our productivity levels for the stock are.
Yep.
And then also looking at in Broadacre we call it dollars per hectare.
Yep.
And so same up here, that we've got to look at the productivity per
Exactly.
hectare.
Yep.
And it's increasing that resolution.
Yep.
Because if you're just looking at a whole operation as, oh yeah, we took off 1,000 head this year, as opposed to how much it costs to get that 1,000 head,
Exactly.
how much they've gained on the property, how much it costs to do it. It's not just a lump sum at the end. It's
No. And you can't work on, you can work on averages, and I think that's how everyone's been doing it. But with the technology that's out there, you can actually break it down, not even so much into individual animals, but to work out, exactly, what expenses is it costing you to run a property, how much you're actually getting back from your animals, and it's being more effective and efficient.
in looking at that, it's that quality over the quantity aspect of it.
Yeah.
But it's those key deliverables. So if you're producing those animals, those 500 head,
Yep.
for less dollars than the other one,
Yep.
and you've still got a lot of food on offer, your sustainability as a business, because seasons are so variable,
Yeah.
and you can't bank on it here in the southern rangelands of
No.
constant rainfall.
Yep.
You've got to be able to make sure that you've got what they call the haystack
Yep.
out there, because if you run 1,000 animals you're aiming for that 1,000 animals, you can deplete that stock of food so quickly.
Yep.
So
And not just the stock, it's your property,
yeah,
because you'll make it barren, and it takes so much longer to rest it and come back rather than run less numbers and let the environment feed your stock.
and so that would be an aspect where you need to understand the total grazing pressure.
Yep.
So it's not just the cattle; it's our,
Not at all. Exactly.
your feral goats,
That's right.
your feral horses, donkeys, pigs, the kangaroos.
Yep.
Since we've come out and increased the availability for water,
Yep.
our kangaroo populations have increased significantly.
Yep.
To an unsustainable level where they are doing some damage to the environment itself.
Yep.
And we need to make sure that there is a balance between what we call the profitable grazers,
Yep.
which are our beef herd,
Mm-hmm.
or in some areas, your sheep herd, or even those people who are crazy enough to run goats. A balance between what they're grazing and the impact they're having on the environment,
Yep.
and the kangaroos being at a sustainable population.
Yeah.
Because if we turned the water off today, a lot of animals would die.
Yep.
Because there's not enough water out here to sustain the population of feral animals that we have out here.
Yep.
And what that would do is it would push them further in towards the agricultural zones.
Yep.
So understanding our numbers of feral animals and our native grazers who can be damaging to the environment if not managed correctly,
Yes.
getting that understanding of the total grazing pressure allows you to make data-driven decisions.
Yep.
So that you can be prepared for a dry season, a drought.
That's right.
Poor times of the year and the production cycle.
Yeah.
So that if you've got your walkover weigher and you've got your camera and you've got your remote sensing unit that's out there to assess your total food on offer,
Yep.
and you've done your ground counts and you're using satellite data, all of this technology that's available and in development,
Mhm.
and you start to notice that Bessie 1384 is now losing condition,
Yep.
you go, well, why is that? You can have a look at the camera and go, well, she actually looks like she's pregnant.
Yeah.
And we look at the record and say, well, it's been 7 months since she's calved. We've got one at foot.
Yep.
Maybe we should enact a management decision like, let's go muster. Let's tell Google to shut the gate.
Yeah.
And we will get that calf off her.
Yep.
We'll throw that calf onto early weaning pellets.
Yep.
And then get them down to some green pastures because it's coming into summer where it's harder. What I'm trying to bring in and what I'm aiming to achieve here is what I saw being done at feedlots 12 years ago. We're putting smart home sensors at
Yeah.
a water point.
Yeah. Google.
So, it's just an application, a novel application of existing technologies.
Yeah.
And we know that there's so much more that can be done,
Yes.
but we're limited in time and funding.
People want to be connected to the outside world because in their social life or in their family life, just about everything, is done from your phone, isn't it?
Fingertips.
From social media to booking hotels to travel to banking to everything. And everyone loves that convenience. And whether you're a pastoralist or a miner or a lawyer or a doctor, everyone's using that in their social life. There's no point in doing anything digital or anything innovative if it doesn't directly impact the bottom line of your business, which never changes. I mean, my understanding is you guys sell beef, right? That's what you do, you sell beef. Now, to sell beef, like any business, you want to reduce your costs and you want to grow your top line revenue. And technology has a role to play there. Now, there's billions of things you can do in the digital world, but you've got to work out what are the things that can make a difference to my specific, cattle industry, bottom line and top line. How do I sell more beef at less cost, at less head, at less environmental impact? Where are my key costs and so forth? And those sorts of things can all be improved through the use of technology. I think the other thing that happens is that talking about change is hard. I reckon a lot of cattle people and pastoralists grew up the hard way. They were taught by their parents. They'd done their time on the tools. They built up their reputation, their IP, and they want to protect that, and they know it.
Yeah.
And if you come in and say, oh, forget all that and there's a different way to do it, it's almost too much.
Yeah, it's confronting.
And it's confronting, and I think it's confronting because does it mean their way of life is going to change, or do they lose control over the business and the way they're doing things today? And I think that's a key fear of most people that are being encouraged to do digital or to do transformation or use technology innovation in the business side, is this loss of control and, not knowing, the unknown.
The evolution of what I want to achieve with our connectivity.
Yep.
Because once we've got our connectivity, we can do monitoring, which allows us to start measuring.
Mm-hmm.
And then from measuring, it's going to enable us to start making some predictions.
Yep.
And then from predictions, we're going to be able to make prescriptions.
Yep.
And so it's going to lead to less time at the race because we could have the system automated completely, where it will inform you as to what this animal needs done. If there's a management question, so the computer will query, is it pregnant? I'm 90% sure, but you're going to have to check it yourself.
Yeah.
Which is going to be quicker than we are.
Yeah.
Because if we're pushing cattle through, the person at the back might be looking at an animal and we can't hear each other because we've got a lot of noise going on.
Yes.
Whereas if we've got the system automated and it's going gate to gate to gate, and the animals with the automated gates, they are so calm.
Yeah.
They'll be walking through at a steady and controlled pace, and because they know the rhythm and it's coming through.
Well, and even they're already somewhat educated and controlled with it through the water points and the self-mustering yards.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so then you're going to have a system which can tell you that this one's going onto the truck.
Yep.
And you could have it to the point where it puts them up the truck itself.
That's right, and it would do a draft for you and then spit you out. We send that many that way, so on and so forth, and even down to a category of the different types of livestock.
Yep, and you've got that real-time data. It's up on the cloud. One of the great things that we've noticed with the remote monitoring that we have at the moment is, Dad being able to sit down in Esperance and watch us mustering.
Yeah.
And, he has a lot of fun watching us muster. It's also got huge implications for workplace safety.
Yeah.
Say we have an incident in the yards, we can review it. We've got a video review.
Yeah.
And that allows us to have a higher level of accountability, which also leads to a higher level of accountability for animal welfare. Are you treating your stock right? But also, do the stock have water?
Yeah.
How are they looking? So many more, more eyes on it. I've got the video I can check my water points.
Yep.
Dad can check the water points. My brothers can check the water points.
Yeah.
Suddenly, we've got 4 of us checking all water points every day.
Yep.
And that means that we are going to keep on top of it. Someone might notice something else.
You can do it remotely.
Yeah.
You know, that's always the draw card, is you can actively see what's happening whilst you are at the farm in Esperance and it's wet season up here or whatever it be. So you've got that flexibility and you have accountability here without actually being here.
Well, one of the points that I like to try and, in trying to sell the idea and get buy-in on it, is the holiday state of mind.
Yep.
You know, a lot of pastoralists, when they go away on holiday or anything, you still have a bit of stress about, is the water okay?
Yeah.
Even with a caretaker and people that you trust, sometimes there can be just a little bit of, is it all good?
It's so hard to switch off.
Yeah. And if you can, while you're on holiday, you just take that 5 minutes, check your phone, take that sigh of relief, and it's all good for another day.
Yeah.
And where we're getting to is with the new aircraft, we're going to be 2.5 hours away.
Yep.
Which means that I can be helping out down at the farm during harvest or seeding or anything, or even just having a break down there. And if I notice a problem, or if Ant says, hey, look, I've got a problem at this point, I need some help, I can fly up in the day, help him out, or he can remotely dial in, or I can remotely dial in and talk him through diagnostics and the problems.
Yeah.
Now, this is remote diagnostics. We were doing it with machinery, where we've got a problem on a tractor out in a paddock.
Yeah.
We could log in via the satellite or via 3G and identify what the problems were with the machine, what part likely needed to be repaired, and who in our team was best suited to fix the problem.
And that's where I think your precision ag background, as I say, I've not seen this anywhere in WA. I don't know if you've seen it anywhere else, like what you're doing, but that's where you're taking the livestock game to the next level. And that's where tech is so good and valuable to get to that point of you can do so much with it. It obviously costs to get to that point, but the long run in saving and to having that tech out there and monitoring it and seeing it and all the benefits that come with it is beyond valuable.
We aren't getting rid of jobs. We are increasing the skill level of the people who are employed in it.
Probably more focused jobs now. You aren't, as you say, you're not spending 3 days out just driving around. No, and it's not that it's wasting time, but, it's a long time to be driving around going to bores. Whereas now you're focusing, that bore there's got a problem, we'll go have a look at it, and then we can focus on other jobs across the whole property rather than 3 days doing waters and then you've got 4 days of trying to catch up, and people need time off and so on and so forth. So there are so many benefits to it.
Well, yeah, that mental health aspect.
Yeah, well, literally.
Being able to knock off on the weekend, sit down, watch the cricket or footy, like during the summer. If you don't have to be slamming around in the paddock in 40-degree heat where something can go wrong, you can check it on your phone and go out when you need to.
Yeah,
like
that's right.
How much nicer is that?
I think it's a really good analogy. I used it a long time ago, but is that I think everybody knows Iron Man, Tony Stark. And Iron Man. And I just reckon it's a really good analogy because Tony Stark is Tony Stark. He's kind of a cool guy. He wants to do fun things. When Tony Stark puts on his Iron Man suit, he can do so many more things. So his world just got, everything just became more efficient, more productive, more faster, better, whatever. The point is, though, that Tony Stark is still in charge. He's in control.
Yeah.
So this idea that just because you introduce technology means that you're losing control or understanding your business is absolutely not the case. I would argue that by investing in parts of the Tony Stark suit, maybe it's just the hand or maybe it's the foot or maybe it's the this or that, that you are going to find your life, you're going to have more control over your life. You're going to have more control, you're going to have more balance, you're going to have more control over your what already you know is your IP for cattle industry. So I think the only thing I'd say, or my experience is the fear associated with technology and the loss of control is how do you articulate or how do you change the perception that they're gaining more control? You know, we're talking about losing control versus gaining control.
Yeah.
So if we take Jack's monitoring system that he's running out here, a good example would be, okay, the station owner or the station manager goes on holiday with his or her family.
Yeah.
And they still have peace of mind, so they can spend time with the family.
Yeah.
And they have control over all their water points because they can review it without getting it secondhand from someone they didn't maybe understand or something. So it's just a simple, very small example of how you're not losing control, you're gaining control. Because the station owner or manager looking at that, like if I look at it, it doesn't mean anything to me, right? But if the station owner looks at it on their property, it means everything to them because that IP is still there. They're understanding that it's all there.
Exactly.
But it's their ability. It's the Tony Stark. That's the Tony Stark Iron Man eye or goggles. Is one example of how you are not losing control but gaining control by having these, you know, for those of my vintage, the Bionic Man or whatever, the $6 million man, the Bionic Woman, you know, Wonder Woman. Having those eyes doesn't change. They're not forced to do anything different, but it just frees up everything else on this.
So I hope that hasn't sounded too much like a lecture or anything, but it's been a good discussion that we've had with Hayley. And I've just got to say a massive thank you to Hayley and to Datamars for her being able to come out and join us for a couple of days and have a look around and see how we do things. And I'm looking forward to seeing what develops out of that Bullseye project. So once again, thanks to Hayley and thanks to Datamars for her being able to get out and about. And it's really good to see reps for companies getting out into these areas because, you know, for a lot of people, it is a long way away. And some people out this far do feel a bit forgotten by the reps or not big enough for the reps to come to. But Hayley shows a true passion and she does a great job. And it's great to have someone who's as enthusiastic as she is about improving it and bringing in that new set of eyes into the industry. So cheers. Catch you next time.